It's the kit lens.
Oh, really?
It's a very nice
It's an
camera.
APT 135.
That's pretty good.
I have a better, like a 70 to 200, but that's
No.
too narrow.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a better lens.
Do you want me to reduce the resolution of the video so that it all fits?
Yeah. I think it defaults to 1080p or something.
Yeah,
You could
it's
make
a
it 720.
lot more. Okay, now it's going to be just the regular HD view.
Okay. I think I have another memory card which I
Oh,
forgot.
you
I forgot to bring.
Oh, I see.
So
Standard EOS firmware allows you to change the video resolution?
I think so.
Huh.
I mean, this is not a particularly new camera.
Yeah, because
This is the T4i. I think they're up to T99.
Or 8 or
Yeah,
are they up
I
to
have the
9?
7 from the few years.
I have a 7.
It doesn't change all that much.
No.
Yeah, that's true. I thought it was the same.
Well, that's good. It's good UI principles.
Oh yeah, you should. So
Actually, what's nice is even their fancy,
Yep.
or 5D or whatever it's called.
And you hit record
Yeah,
already.
essentially the same
record.
UI,
I'm not sure.
so it's very
these
easy
slides
to
should
go
be
back.
format.
shared. It's. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it'll do 14 frames a second or something.
Hi. So I decided that what I would talk about is the first grant that Pete and I and others worked on. We called it Integrating Data, Models, and Reasoning in Critical Care.
I apologize.
I'm not sure what's going on now. Even this doesn't work.
All right.
It does. It's
Attaching
work.
into remote participants.
This grant was funded by NIH's program in biomedical research partnerships. So to qualify, you needed to have a group of people who were partners. We had 3 institutions. We had MIT faculty, which included myself, George Verghese, and Pete. The Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, in particular, the intensivists and the IT department, and Philips Healthcare. And let me see how you go back. Okay, so you can probably figure out that I was concerned with data. George Verghese was concerned with models. And Pete was concerned with reasoning. And this was our goal. This was probably put together in 2001 or maybe 2002. This was a dream, and I think it's fair to say the dream is still a dream. But we figured that there was so much data available from patients in the intensive care unit that if you could get it all and you could put it together, that you should be able to build an advanced monitoring system that would be smart enough to understand and to track and to predict the state of a patient. A dream. Of course, to work on this, we needed a data archive in the laboratory. We needed to mirror the ICU environment. And such a data archive could support the development of algorithms for monitoring and decision support. It would also support retrospective, observational, critical care research. And I put in bold the last point because it was, from the beginning, the goal that this data archive would be open to the research community in order to engage the creative energy of people all over the world. Because The creation of new knowledge and new clinical tools requires data. Why doesn't it? But progress explodes if the data is open. And progress is throttled by barriers to data sharing. That's something that we believed from the beginning, and we still believe today. We found that the BI was an incredibly supportive environment. And in a sense, it's very unusual. I think those environments don't exist commonly. They had built a high-quality information system. The IT department, particularly John Halamka, were very supportive of the project. And the hospital used Philips equipment in the ICU at that time. The IRB was willing to approve the project as early as 2001 and every year after that, with obviously waiver of informed consent, because you can't get informed consent from the population of patients that we were interested in. And we built this archive. We now call it the Medical Information Mart for Intensive Care, or MIMIC. And the steps are obvious. We had to extract the data from the hospital archives, bring it to MIT under a business associate agreement, reformat the data, clean it, de-identify it, document it, credential users, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and then distribute the data via PhysioNet or via Google Cloud today. This is the source of the data. The waveforms were collected from the monitors, and that included high frequency vital signs time series, as well as alarms. And that data ended up in a waveform database. The clinical data from the ICU came off the information system, which at that time was CareView, made by Philips. That's changed more recently. Hospital archives gave us things like laboratory results, discharge summaries, medications, imaging interpretations, etc. And the Social Security death data gave us post-discharge data on these patients. The de-identification was to clean the structured data. That you would think was easy, but it turned out that you would find free text PHI in the weirdest places in these databases. We shifted the dates, and at first we said, you know, we want to preserve the season, the day of the week. Maybe people are interested to know if your survival is enhanced by being admitted in the middle of the week as opposed to Friday. Or whether the statistics of critical illness changed as a function of season. We've changed that now, so the most recent releases will preserve the year, but not the season and not the day of the week. And the reason is this has been going on so long that between 2002 and 2018, which is the last collection we did, drugs have changed, standards of care have changed, and so on. And then the free text de-identification was done with home-brewed software, which was contributed to by Pete's group as well. This is an example of a de-identified nurse progress notes. We collect nurse progress notes, physician progress notes, discharge summaries, text-based image interpretations, and so on. And I would say that although we don't claim perfection, over the years, I think we've had feedback from maybe 5 or 6 events that people thought were PHI. None of them were patient names, but this has been a fairly secure method for de-identification. Mimic 3 was released in 2016. Covered the period 2001 to 2012, had about 60,000 ICU admissions, and includes the data that I just mentioned. Mimic 4 is about to be released. It covers 2012 to 2018, about the same number of ICU admissions, the same kind of data. It actually has been released last month, but only to a limited number of users who are members of our consortium. Probably we'll finish this task of tidying up this database and releasing it to everybody in the 6 months or so. In addition, we have a new database, which is the chest X-ray database. About 370,000 chest X-rays. The images are in DICOM format. They are accompanied by free text radiology reports. They can be linked to the MIMIC clinical data. And this was released in September, last September. Clinical data requires that a user be credentialed. Credentialing means you take a course in human subject training, a city course, and you sign a data use agreement, which is shown below. It's a very simple data use agreement. I won't attempt to identify anybody. I won't share access to anybody else who's uncredentialed. I'll take care of the data and keep it secure. If I find any protected health information, I'll report it so it can be removed. And if I publish research results using the data, I will contribute the code to a repository that's open to the research community, obviously, so the work can be reproduced or tested. There are now at least 12,000 people credentialed to use this from all over the world. As many of you know, it's a common component of university courses in medical informatics. The waveform database, is completely open to everybody, contains lots of waveform records. Our vision, well, I guess our original dream is still part of our vision. But we would love to see a multi-institutional, international, federated critical care database that is open to all. There are challenges, one of which is institutional support regarding the release of data. Another is technology development, harmonizing the data, de-identifying it, credentialing and access control, and long-term funding, which is an issue, because if you give it away free, how are you going to support the resource? We still rely on government funding, and you never can predict how long that will last. So if anybody has a great idea on how to generate money while you give everything away free, let me know. But giving away data free, I think has enormous benefits. The number of people who use it at all levels, from industry to graduate students to undergraduates in rich countries and poor countries, are making contributions to understanding that we hope will be of benefit to everybody. Thank you. That's it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Have you thought about charging companies for it?
Yes, but I've dismissed it. If we're gonna go broke, we might have to do that. But there are many advantages to having this as a free resource. One advantage, which may be obvious, is that if a reporter wants to write a story on how you are using personal information from patients, there's not a whole lot to write about if you're saying it's completely free, nobody's making any money on it, and it's doing a lot of good. And so it's a protective move as well as one that I think enhances. I'm not afraid to ask companies to join our consortium and pay us $50K a year to be members of it and get a little bit earlier access to the data. I think that's okay.